Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good morning. The devotional today will be led by Rabbi Grace Odell, who is the Executive Director of the Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont.
Good morning. I'm humbled to be joining you all on a solemn day, Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Memorial Day, which is a day of Yizkor, of remembrance. Today is one of deep mourning as we honor the 6 million Jews who were killed in the Holocaust, babies, children, and adults alike. We also mourn the hundreds of thousands of Roma people, people with disabilities, queer people, political dissidents, and anyone that the Nazi regime deemed too other, who also were targeted and executed. My own children lost half their ancestors in the Shoah. Together, we bear collective witness to this unspeakable horror of hate and state-sanctioned violence. In Judaism, when we remember our ancestors, we repeat a phrase, "May their memory be for a blessing." This phrase gestures toward the fact that memory is not static, but a living commitment that should inform the work we do, the policy we write, the change we dream of. We cannot grieve the Shoah and not notice the current, dangerous patterns of dehumanization of whole groups of people. Who cannot shudder in recognition of what is happening around us today, reading what Anne Frank wrote in her diary in 1942? "Terrible things are happening outside," she wrote. "At any time of night and day, poor helpless people are being dragged out of their homes. Families are torn apart, men, women, and children separated. Children come home from school to find out that their parents have disappeared." Torah's words are not equivocal. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Do not oppress the stranger. Love the stranger, for you were a stranger. Torah is clear. Remembering suffering that befell our ancestors has always been entwined with a commitment to take action to prevent that suffering from happening to anyone else. These times are so hard and trying, but they also call us to find out how strong we can be, how to tap into a well of love and resilience that can never run out. I have seen our brave little state come together in solidarity and love before in ways that have moved me to my core, in the pandemic, but also in the floods, with neighbors showing up to keep each other safe. The memory of the Shoah calls us to act every day from our most courageous, generous selves, and to lead and make policy from a place of love rather than a place of fear. We can alchemize the grief of suffering into a fierce love for everyone around us and dedicate our lives to pouring love right back into the world, into our land, into our people, and into our shared future. Today, may we carry forward our collective mourning and remembrance, and let it give us all the bravery to act now with boldness, with courage, and with purpose toward the more loving world we know is possible. Thank you.
Will you please rise as Paige Graham-Gilman of Moortown leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members, we have two bills on the notice calendar that carry an appropriation and therefore are referred to the Committee on Appropriations pursuant to House Rule 35A. They are House Bill 955, which is an act relating to next steps in transforming Vermont's education system, and Senate Bill 89, which is an act relating to expanding survivor benefits. Are there any announcements? Member from Calais.
Madam Speaker, it's with the greatest pleasure that I introduce Grace Odell, who delivered our invocation today. Grace now serves as the executive director of the Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont, known to many of us simply as NOFA Vermont. I first met Grace when she was the executive director of the synagogue Ohavi Zedek in Burlington. At the time, I was working with a group of NOFA board members seeking a candidate to undertake the difficult, if not the impossible task of replacing the irreplaceable and beloved Enid Wanacott, who had essentially founded the Northeast Organic Farming Association and led it for several decades. So Grace was a candidate for the NOFA position, and she did have agricultural credibility. She had founded and directed an educational farming center in Massachusetts and undertaken similar work in Maine. But Grace was up against candidates who had full careers in farming and farm policy. And while other candidates were farmers, Grace's then current position was as director of a temple in an urban area, not an obvious candidate to run one of the most important farming organizations in the state. Madam Speaker, however, something in Grace's cover letter intrigued us. So instead of a formal interview, we arranged a video chat just to make sure that we weren't leaving out a possible candidate. After that one simple video conversation with Grace, we just knew without a doubt that we had spent an hour with an amazing human being, the obvious choice for the next NOFA director. And we were right. In the last 7 years, the extraordinary Grace O'Dell has grown the organization, stabilized its finances. She is literally beloved by those who work for and with her. So, Madam Speaker, please help us welcome Grace O'Dell to the People's House.
Will the guest member from Calais please rise and be recognized? Member from Jericho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As we heard earlier in the devotional, today is a day of remembering and a day of, I didn't prepare remarks because this is an important, so Yom HaShoah is very personal to me. I lost a significant portion of my family through the Holocaust. My grandmother left Poland as a teenager and went to Palestine to be there to help found the state because she knew, her family knew, that they weren't going to survive if they stayed in Poland. And in fact, she was the only one who did. There's a story that my mom tells that I will share with you all today. When my mom was cooking, when my grandma was cooking, my mom would come into the kitchen sometimes and find her sobbing. And she'd say, "What's wrong?" And again, I'm going to back up to a woman who left her homeland as a teenager, now has 2 young children, and is cooking for a family in an incredibly difficult situation, very poor, very lucky to have the food that she's preparing. And my grandmother would say, "I'm just chopping onions." And she used that chopping of the onions as an opportunity to let herself go and to feel what she was really feeling, as alone as she was and as sad as she was. And at this time, remember, there weren't cell phones, there wasn't easy TV. She did not know what happened to her family, and she didn't understand completely as we do today, because of these Holocaust museums, because of all of the information that is shared, what really happened in Europe to her family. So today we do have some folks from the Vermont Holocaust Memorial here with us. We have Deborah Steinman, who is the executive director, her husband Peter, and Sarah Villeneuve, who is a board member with the memorial. And the Vermont Holocaust Memorial is an all-volunteer nonprofit. It's a museum without walls dedicated to teaching the lessons of the Holocaust in classrooms and communities throughout the state. by honoring the lives lost and sharing stories of survival. They envision a time where prejudice, bigotry, and hatred are replaced with respect for all.
Will the guest the member from Jericho please rise and be recognized? Members, because it is Holocaust Remembrance Day, will you please join me in a moment of silence? Are there any further announcements? Member from Hubbardton.
Madam Speaker, we have some visitors from Orwell Village School. These future leaders are members of the Student Council taking a tour of the Capitol. Leading the tour is a familiar face, former Representative Joe Andriano. So, Madam Speaker, please welcome to the State House Chandler Paquette, Rona Anderson, Kess Hunter, Clara Lucas, Zadie Kirby, Joe Mason, and chaperones Joe Andriano, and Brian Hill, the 6th grade teacher and student council advisor. And they're seated up there on the balcony.
Will the former member and the guest member from Hubbardton please rise and be recognized? Member from Bennington.
Madam Speaker, I'm humbled each day that I walk in this building, humbled not just by the grandeur of the State House or by the importance of the work we do here, but also by the incredible group of Vermonters with whom I serve. Right here in this room, we have lawyers and educators, we have farmers and Ivy League graduates, we have veterans and former state commissioners. And I believe, Madam Speaker, we may even have one rocket scientist. But for the past 10 years, my poor father, when asked what his son does for a living, has had to hang his head low and say, my son makes maple cotton candy for a living. Well, Madam Speaker, I believe that will change today, for after visiting the People's House, I'm confident that the next time he's asked, my father will raise his head high and say, my son makes cotton candy for a living. But you should see how impressive his friends are. Madam Speaker, if you'll help me welcome my father and brother to the State House.
Will the family member of the member from Bennington please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Waterbury.
Madam Speaker, I move that House Human Services be relieved of H 574, an act relating to the use and maintenance of epinephrine at child care facilities, and that the same be committed to the House Committee on Education.
Member, was that House Bill 574? The member from Waterbury moves that the Committee on Human Services be relieved of House Bill 574 and the same be committed to the Committee on Education. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have relieved the Committee on Human Services of House Bill 574 and committed the same to the Committee on Education. Are there any further announcements? Member from Cambridge.
Madam Speaker, the Rural Caucus will meet tomorrow morning from 8 to 8:45 in room 11 and on Zoom. We will be hearing from the Rural School Community Alliance and the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. All are welcome.
Member from Wolcott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tomorrow, the Older Vermonters Caucus will meet at noon in room 10, and we will hear from two presenters, the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman, who advocates for the rights and quality of lives of Vermonters living in nursing homes and residential care facilities, and Survey and Certification Director, who oversees the inspection and compliance of Vermont's long-term care facilities. Again, that's in room 10 at noon. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Members, I have an update for you on our calendar. So we will start with Senate Bill 163. We will then turn to House Bill 508. We have a committee who's still hearing an amendment on S218. So our order again will be S163, H508, and then S218. After speaking with all House leadership, there's been a request to caucus. So after we hear the amendment and the straw poll votes on 218, we will then recess for caucuses. We will then come back, finish our work on S218. We will adjourn, and then we will have our caucus of the whole to hear the Ways and Means update on House Bill 955, our Education Transformation Bill. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, we will begin with Senate Bill 163, which is an act relating to the role of advanced practice registered nurses in hospital care. The bill was referred to the Committee on Health Care, which recommends that the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as printed in today's calendar. The member from Rockingham, Representative Goldman, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S163, an act relating to the role of advanced practice registered nurses in hospital care.
Member from Rockingham.
Madam Speaker, S163, an act relating to the role of advanced practice registered nurses in hospital care, was referred to the House Health Care Committee from the Senate, and I respectfully report that it has considered the same and recommend that the House propose to the Senate that the bill be amended. The vote in your House Health Care Committee in support of this amendment was 10-0-0. You will find this bill on page 1746 of today's House calendar. S163 is grounded in the Patient Bill of Rights, and I would like to give a brief history of the Patient Bill of Rights. Before the 1970s, the culture in medicine was that doctors made decisions with little patient input. Patients often were not told full details about their diagnoses, and consent was minimal or informal. In the 1960s and 70s, social movements, such as the Civil Rights Movement, the Consumer Rights Movement, and the Women's Rights Movement expanded into healthcare. Legal cases established informed consent as a requirement. There was growth in bioethics as a field, and patients began demanding transparency and participation in their care. The first formal Patient Bill of Rights was in 1973 by the American Hospital Association, and it emphasized respectful care, privacy, access to information, and the right to refuse treatment. This was the first time patient rights in medicine were clearly codified in one place. In the 1980s and 1990s, HMOs and insurance companies gained power. Patients faced treatment denials, doctors had less autonomy, and the public became more frustrated. In 1996, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, codified privacy and control of medical records, and in the 2000s, hospital accreditation rules required patients' rights policies. In 2010, the Affordable Care Act expanded insurance protections. At that time, patients' rights became legally enforceable and not just ethical guidelines. Currently, healthcare emphasizes that patients are now seen as a partner in care, not just a passive recipient. Patients have digital access to their records through patient portals, and there's an emphasis on equity and non-discrimination with legal protections. The Patient Bill of Rights developed as a response to imbalances of power in healthcare, first between doctors and patients, and later between patients and complex insurance systems. Over time, it helped transform healthcare into a more transparent, accountable, and patient-focused system. Title 18, Chapter 42, Subchapter 1 codifies the Vermont Bill of Rights for hospital patients and patient access to information. At the time of adoption in 1985, current practice was that physicians would be attending of record for hospital care. Over time, hospital practice has evolved to include advanced practice registered nurses and physician's assistants in this role, most notably in rural hospitals where physicians might not be available at certain times. S-163 aims to update the Patient Bill of Rights to reflect what is actually happening in hospital practice, so patients will have a clear understanding who is responsible for their care, be it a physician, advanced practice registered nurse, or physician assistant. We learned in testimony that in actuality, hospitals set their own admitting and discharge privileges. Medical staff policy at each hospital will be the arbiter of who is ultimately responsible for patient care. I will now review the sections of the bill as amended. Section 1 updates the definition of 18 VSA Section 1851 of Advanced Practice Registered Nurse, or APRN, physician, and physician assistant, or PA. Section 2 adds PA, or APRN, to 18 VSA Section 1852, the Patient Bill of Rights. Section A2 adds language that the patient shall have an attending physician, PA, or APRN responsible for the patient's care. Section 1852A3 states that the patient has a right to obtain from the physician, APRN, or PA, coordinating their care, complete and current information concerning diagnosis, treatment, and any known prognosis that the patient can reasonably understand. If the patient consents, family members or guardians may also obtain this information. It also includes that the patient has the right to know by name the attending physician, and now, if passed, the APRN or PA primarily responsible for coordinating the patient's care. Section 1852A4 states that in addition to physicians, APRNs and PAs may give information necessary to obtain informed consent prior to the start of any procedure, treatment, or both. Section 1852A9 and 11 state that the patient has the right to know the identity and professional status of individuals providing services and to know which physician, PA, APRN is primarily responsible for their care and has the right to continuity of care. Section 2B codifies that failure to comply with any provision of this section may constitute a basis for disciplinary action against the physician under 26 VSA Chapter 23 or 33, against a PA under 26 VSA Chapter 31, or against an APRN under 26 VSA Chapter 28. A complaint may be filed with the Board of Medical Practice or the Office of Professional Regulation as applicable based on the license held by the practitioner. Section 2C requires the hospital to provide contact information for the Office of Professional Regulation in addition to the contact information for the Board of Medical Practice. Any failure to comply with the patient's Bill of Rights can already form the basis for a disciplinary action for some physicians, medical doctors, but the bill expands that to apply to all physicians, including doctors of osteopathy, APRNs, and PAs. Section 3, 18 VSA 19055, deals with licensing requirements for hospitals and states that a patient admitted to the hospital shall be under the care of a physician licensed pursuant to 26 VSA Chapter 23 or 33, a PA licensed pursuant to 26 VSA Chapter 31, or an APRN licensed pursuant to 26 VSA Chapter 28, Subchapter 2. Section 4 is the effective date, which shall be on passage, and after passage, the title of the bill will be amended to read, "An Act Relating to the Role of Advanced Practice Providers in Hospital Care." Madam Speaker, in our current reality, especially in our rural hospitals, both advanced practice registered nurses and physician's assistants might be serving as the attending from the patient's perspective. And S-163 aims to update the Vermont Patient Bill of Rights to reflect this reality. Witnesses include Executive Director, Vermont Medical Society, Deputy Chief Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, Director, Office of Professional Regulation, Secretary of State's Office, Senior Vice President of Policy and Strategy, Vermont Association of Vermont and Health Systems, Chair, Board of Medical Practice, Certified Nurse Midwife, American College of Nurse Midwifery, President, Physician Assistant Association of Vermont, Medical Director, Rutland Regional Medical Center, ICU. President, Vermont Nurse Practitioner Association. The vote in your House Healthcare Committee in support of S-163 was 10-0-0, and we respectfully ask for the body's support.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Health Care? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have proposed to the Senate to amend the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Next is House Bill 508, which is an act relating to approval of amendments to the Charter of the City of Burlington. The bill passed the Senate in concurrence with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's calendar. The pending question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment? Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, the Senate Government Operations Committee referred your House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs a proposal of amendment regarding H508 entitled An Act Relating to Approval of Amendments to the Charter of the City of Burlington. They recommend amending Section 2, Title 24, Appendix Chapter 3, Section 2, which proposed to authorize the City Council to make changes to the boundaries of the election areas pursuant to this section to be made not more frequently than once every 5 years, to now allow the City Council to make changes whenever necessary to correct an unconstitutional division of population among city districts or wards. Madam Speaker, Burlington's situation is unique among Vermont's 9 cities. The proposed amendment would still require voter approval of ward and district boundary changes in Burlington, but it would no longer require a charter change. This would facilitate the administration of city elections and would put the city on par with every other Vermont city in not requiring involvement from the legislature to determine ward and district boundaries. Your House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs found the amendment favorable on a straw poll vote of 901 and asked for the body's support.
The question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment. Members, the committee, I believe, is still hearing the amendment, so we are going to take a brief recess and get an update on how much time the committee needs. So the House will stand in recess until the fall of the gavel at approximately 10:40.